love to give signals, that love to talk more than they should, and that allow us to connect the dots in this investigation. They are constantly talking about different signals. Marina Corina Machado talked about recently about signals. Be attentive to the signals. They openly talk about sabotage the elections. While they speak, we act. And from a few days ago, we received information that I simply alerted back then, and now I ratified it, of attacks with explosives, led especially to embassies here in Venezuela. Embassies here in Venezuela, because they're in the meetings. Well, if we put a bomb on an embassy, the world will know this. And they will speak in the world about the weakness of the government. So these are people that have any kind of morals. They don't care about death. They only care for to have an impact in the international level, because here internally we know that politically their actions have discredited them, and they are on the side of the law, and they cannot act politically or morally because of the crimes they've committed. So they pointed at embassies as the main objective for an attack. Police stations, because according to them, that will make that the police forces to join their movement. But that's like cutting the legs of someone and tell them afterwards to join them. But that's what they believe. That if they bomb police stations, police officers will join them. A very particular way of acting. And hospitals, unbelievable but true. Care centers. And when we talk about this, we have documents, we have conversations, we have proof through phones that speak about this. Hospitals, because that will be a shock, and now no one will be able to hide it. Something that happened in a hospital, in a healthcare center. Areas of public services, transport, gas stations, power stations, and then of course important figures from both the Bolivarian Revolution and the Venezuelan opposition, especially those that today are leading as candidates of the opposition. It's a scenario that they want to present to the world, that in Venezuela there are no conditions to carry out an election. Now, the world knows perfectly that the electoral schedule has been abided with, and we have been doing everything that was planned, and that the country is ready for these elections. Plan Bolivar launches formally this week in electoral centers within the framework of the Republic Plan. I'm sure that Venezuelans have seen our security forces and the National Guard patrolling the streets, not only of Caracas, but of the whole of Venezuela, taking precautions for this. And this has taken us in this new conspiracy plot and terrorist plot to act in these four main fronts. We have detained a group of Venezuelans that were returning to the country with explosive artifacts. They are called electric explosives. We can show them if electric triggers. There are 8 there that were taken from 2 people that were arriving. 8. Each was an objective. Each trigger is an objective. I don't know if I'm making myself understood. These are put on an explosive, and is the one that launches the explosion. This would seem that is insignificant, but without this, there is no real possibility of preparing an explosive device in which the person can be away from the explosive, because this is the advantage it has, because it can be then activated by their phones or by time, or with a timer, a watch, with different mechanisms. So each of these was an objective. Within the objective, I'm telling you, embassies, police stations, hospitals, healthcare centers, public services, and important figures. So figures that they would like to attack from the Bolivarian Revolution. It's always the same. In this, we are always taking care. We take the precautions to prevent this from happening. The ill-named coyotes. A network link, all because they have the phone contacts of kidnappings here in Venezuela. Douglas Rico's here a witness of this, that figure is practically disappeared. And days ago, we began to get cases of kidnappings in the western area of the country. And the payment that they were using is a different method through cryptocurrencies, supposedly to not leave any kind of trace. The investigation was launched, and by chance I say, because nothing happens by chance, the head of that group is a former official of the National Armed Forces, of those that participated on April 30th, when back in the April 30th, they went to Altamira, and that's one of the officials that is the head of that criminal gang, Gomez Moran. There he is, Arturo Jose Gomez Morante. And one might think, what does this has to do with anything else? Well, it's terror. This official has direct links. He's in the United States, protected by the United States government. He has direct links with these groups. In the United States, I must say that the person in charge of this latest conspiracy in Venezuela is Ivan Simonovich, who has a long history of failures, but that does not make us overconfident. On the contrary, before its long history of failures, he has a lot of thirst for vengeance. And when I say this, is that they lose. If they had any kind of honor, it completely disappears. This group of coyotes kidnap people. Among its tasks, they had of creating terror in their families of state officials of the Venezuelan state. Then we have the mercenaries. We arrive at this moment with 38 new detained. Those that brought explosive, the coyotes, mercenaries, people that have arrived in Venezuela, of which 17 are foreigners and 21 Venezuelans. They have arrived in Venezuela and don't have any kind of justification. And when we check their mobile phones, they speak clearly of the work that they come to do in our country. That has to do with these mafia groups of violence, of terrorism, and conspiracy. we have captured people coming through the border with Colombia, and others that have tried to enter through flights, regular commercial flights from Colombia. When we do the checkup, flights that come from Colombia, but they come from third countries. They first go to Colombia and they come here. So that we have given instructions that to suspend immediately all flights that come from Colombia to Venezuela, because the information that we have has to do with this kind of movement of people. See how they evolve. In the first were mercenaries that didn't care if they spoke Spanish or not. Then they mutated to the fact that they must speak Spanish, and now it's just people that come with clear objective and they will enter like any other tourist to Venezuela. Fortunately we have learned, and we have the capacity, the ability to directly detect the majority of these cases. They spoke of signals that they are already in Venezuela. Well, there are already 38 detained in Venezuela. I'm sending you this signal that we have 38 detained. And the fourth way that they have has to do with drug trafficking. We have said this several times from here. Tomorrow, when New York Times has this information, then they will say that it's true. When the Washington Post says it, people will say, oh, it's true. No, but we have been saying this for a while. The financing of all the conspiracies, terrorism in Venezuela comes straight from drug trafficking from Colombia. From the Colombian drug trafficking, where Uribe, Duque, Pastrana, and Santos are the one leading this. Duque, Uribe, Pastrana, and Santos, the leaders of drug trafficking in Colombia, and this is known by everyone in Colombia. This is not an overreaction of ours, not at all. Recently, we detained a citizen that his origin is Albanese, comes from Albania, but has also Colombian nationality. So he was detained at the airport. This citizen that I will show you. This citizen. We, in cooperation with the capacities that we have, we began to pull the string, and the man is searched as an international drug trafficker. By chance, they know nothing in Colombia about it, and they know nothing about it in Colombia because he even have a permit to carry arms in Colombia. This citizen who is searched internationally for drug trafficking. Do you have the picture of the permit? If we can download it and put it on the screen, so that you see that we aren't lying about anything. This citizen, when he's captured, when he was detained, we began to, well, first that he tried to bribe the officials. Then he turned violent in his acting, and he had to be subdued. We always try to avoid to make the use of firearms, and we have to say that this man went crazy, and he had to be detained by by officials. And when we began to pull the strings, he had reservations in a hotel here in Caracas, and that reservation was made from the United States. But what does that has to do with this? People might wonder. Well, you can check, dear journalists, who is in charge in Ecuador of the mafia of drug trafficking, who is in charge in Ecuador of that mafia of Colombian drug trafficking that is operating with the Ecuadorian president. And there comes the other connection, set by themselves, There you have it. Re- Colombian Republic, the permit for carrying weapons. It's similar to those permissions that were given by Uribe when he was the leader of aeronautics in Colombia. And the expiration date is 2032, so it's very recent. So the mafia of drug trafficking in Ecuador, there are several citizens from Albania that are leading that mafia. I have nothing against the nationals of that country, but this is a reality. And in Colombia and Ecuador, there are also training camps for the paramilitaries related to drug trafficking, and and they say themselves that they were training Venezuelans. As a fact, these people that were detained with the triggers, they were in Ecuador. So we want to warn the country. We want to firstly warn our people to have the utmost care and still. Those are the ones that we detain with the triggers. Is that we have these investigations right now underway. So I don't want to show any more that we want to right now, because as we are speaking, there are currently raids being carried out in different parts of Caracas and Venezuela. So they will have signals, and they're going to be very precise signals. If you want to create violence, you will have a strong response by the Bolivarian government. And behind all this is Maria Corina Machado and also Ivan Simonovic. They are all taking part in terrorism, conspiracy, drug trafficking, coyotes, human trafficking. Those are the components that they are trying to implement to prevent elections to be held on May 25th. And they won't be able to do so. They won't be able to prevent our people to express themselves. We have been working for days in silence. And when we work in silence, it's true. When we are working in silence, we are working. And then they come out and say, oh, they captured this one. Well, we also seized 3 phones. What's on those phones is pure gold. Is what is on those phones of information of their contacts here in Venezuela. Groups that we have detained of foreign citizens that were here in Venezuela with information and data from different leaders, different sectors, the leaders of different community organizations and projects. We know what they tried to do here. They even say in one of the conversations, but they weren't able to because we closed the circle, that in a recent event they were going to send people to take pictures of those around leading the event. That was an event that was over there at the Pantheon. And then they say they could not take the pictures because things turned difficult. And I can tell you that it will be even more difficult, ladies and gentlemen, if you try anything against the Venezuelan state and people. You cannot even imagine it. If there are any questions, please. Written Minister, good afternoon. Several topics, or at least to make it clear from the statements that you just made. You speak of 38 new detainees. Are those 38? Are these 7 members of the cryptocurrency are part of those 38? Under what grounds were those 7 crypto assets detained? Because it appears that they came to do some targeted kidnapping of high officials. And does this have any links with what was detected in the Zulia state with the mayors that were detained, etc.? And if you can make a balance sheet of that, what is happening in Zulia. Effectively, so a month ago, we had the information of a kidnapping over there in the west area. We acted. The person was charged with cryptocurrencies. For the ransom, we began to pull the string. The person decided to pay immediately. We began to pull the string. We carried out the investigation. And a while ago, another person was kidnapped in Lara State, which is perhaps the one you're referring to, which is also public now. They asked for an amount of money, also in cryptocurrency, and we set up a whole operation with all the different organizations, and we managed to detain the material authors of that crime. They all have confessed, they have spoken, and among the things that they have said is that their function this year was the kidnapping of family members of ours to disencourage us. See? All morals have been lost. So from what in theory will be a political fact is a criminal action of the lowest standards. And we know those that we know these people, we know they have no kind of morals. If it has to do with what happens in Zulia, of course, we have met, we have a series of detentions. What happens is that now you detain someone right now and they quickly say that it's because they are going to be a candidate. That's their excuse. But the operation is in full development and there's links there. The presence of that Albany citizens here is not by chance. His links here are not by chance. His relationships here in Venezuela are not by chance. His relationships in Colombia are not by chance. In Colombia, they try to find in Colombia if he's being searched internationally, and what does come up? Nothing. But when you go on other levels, there you have that he has a notice for drug trafficking. But this is not only drug trafficking. He comes here to he also come here to get reports from the money they have paid, because we have seized how much is it? 32 tons of drugs seized, and this year are reaching 40 tons, and that's a lot of money for them. It's money that they're using for conspiracy here in Venezuela. Remember that all that began with a meeting that was detected in Colombia between Marina Corina Machado and Mr. Rincon, who used the front of being a shrimp businessman for drug trafficking. But it's drug trafficking, is political power, is money, drug, and perversion. We in the investigation, we have not said this, I think. It has been proven completely without a doubt how they use the shipments the shipments of shrimps to fill them with cocaine. This has been proven. We detain officials from different institutions, unfortunately, but it is the way it is, because none of this happens without the complicity at some levels. In some cases, the complicity is, I will look the other way, but that also makes you responsible. The number of detained, we can talk about this in another occasion, but that continues to move forward. And today, in the preliminary meeting that we have within the investigation, a group of people are going to be detained. Thank you. The United States recently issued an alert for U.S. citizens that not to travel to Venezuela or leave the country. Is the U.S. government knowing this, or is the Marco Rubio's the one leading this, who is the main sponsor of Marina Corina and the far right, if we want to call it like this? And the president talked about nexus. What can you tell us about this topic of nexus, of these small groups of 2-3 people that gather? How is that going if it is part of this dismantling that you are carrying out? First, the alert, the warning issued by the United States, this comes from years back. What they do is that they renew it every year, but it brings to question that at the moment, at the heightened point of investigations in October, a numerous group of people were detained here in Venezuela. U.S. citizens were detained here. Some of them, we've delivered them to the U.S. government. Some continue to be detained here. We have not stopped. It's just that they have stopped coming. U.S. mercenaries and terrorists, they have stopped arriving. So we believe that this has to do that at the border we were doing the necessary corrections for the entries of to Venezuela. That they provide their citizen alert this moment, is just renewal. For us, in reality, has no impact. That's an issue for them over there. But it always raises our attention, because every time that they do this, violence comes after in Venezuela. It's like they have, if they had a fortune teller to know what will happen. Don't go over there. What do you know? Then from the States, Mr. Marco Rubio is an enemy of Venezuela. He's an enemy of Venezuelan migrants. He's an enemy that he himself has declared as the enemy of Venezuela. He has no reason to be an enemy of Venezuelans. He was elected over there in the States as a senator for Florida, and then he launched a campaign of attack against migrants that he has led, that he's been protested against in Florida anywhere he goes. For his mistaken policy against Venezuela, he has taken a harsher tone, and he uses mechanisms of any nature to attack through lies, especially lies. And then he used them over and over. Like, for example, terrorist groups, Tren del Agua. Those are all recycled lies. Drug trafficking, a recycled lie. Oh, I invite you all to check in what country of America is a hard blow to drug trafficking being made as it is being made here in Venezuela. And where was it going at the end? Because in the United States, they were waiting for the shipment. They are the biggest consumer of drugs. So nothing And if there is a link, of course, because there's a direct link with Marina Corina Machado, and they don't hide it when they're complying with the orders of those that were elected. But the main principle of the United States is that they don't abide by the orders of those that elected them, but by the orders of those that pay for the campaign. And the second question was about the nexus, the small groups. These were made, and for them, they have turned into a knot. Dead end straight, because we must remember where we come from. An organization that has today a terrible connotation, and we call them small commandos, comanditos. That my friends in Zulia, these comanditos, we know perfectly in the communities that they were the ones that created violence on July 28th, and they try to do something new. It's a terrorist group. They are all terrorist groups. And parts of the conversations that we can find on the phone of the Albany citizens has to do with this, with the links. Part of the information that was being delivered of the streets and the communities has to do with this. Of whom we are acting in accordance with the Constitution and the law, with full respect of human rights of those detained, but with the strength to guarantee peace of all Venezuelans. And we won't waver from that mission. No one will make us falter in that mission. Thank you.
La tercera y última pregunta la realiza Marcos Salgado por Hispan TV.
Buenas tardes, ministro. Una precisión en lo que usted anunciaba.
A quick precision of what you were announcing, this subject of the flights from Colombia. You said that they can be suspended starting from right now, immediately. And will that suspension last beyond Sunday? Certainly. Because, I'm sorry that I interrupt you, because their plans is not only until the May 25th, because in their sick mind, they want to create a continued situation of violence. We know they cannot hold for half a day, because immediately they disperse. But in their planning, what we have found, they are not only talking of May 25th or 26th, they are going beyond. Afterwards, you say there are 17 foreigners that are detained, new detainees, in the framework of these investigations. You spoke of one in particular. Can you tell us of other nationalities that have been detained? I can name you Colombians, Mexican, and Ukrainians here in Venezuela. And lastly, in the narrative of the opposition sector close to Marina Corina Machado, there are actions that can come in the next days. They're asking their people to be attentive. Is in what you were commenting at the beginning. Is this link to what happened in the Argentine embassy, the exit of Venezuela? They put it on the same narrative as one single fact. How do you read this? Well, we read it as they say it, signals, because they speak a lot. It's a characteristic that they speak a lot. Since they are so smart, or they believe themselves to be so smart, they say something here, something over there, and someone that has a map of what they have said, of what they have done, of what they are saying right now, is very easy to connect the dots. It's extremely easy because mostly it's always the same people that come out and brag and talk beforehand. How many times has Marina Machado said that the government is weaker than ever? It came out. I said recently how many times he has said that, and then we found the connection. How many times have Simonovic have said that he's going to come to Venezuela? That they have contacts and they know what is going to happen in Venezuela. How many times have they said it? It's very easy. There are software that you can put the information and it gives you a prediction. Of course, they imagine that we are not able to do this because we don't have, according to them, the ability. We are not smart enough to do this because they are the smartest of all. Hopefully, they continue to underestimate us, because I believe that the greatest guarantee of the defeat of the Venezuelan opposition, of this extremist, stupid opposition, is when they underestimate us. How many times have they underestimated the President of the Republic? How many times have they underestimated our Bolivarian armed forces? How many times have they underestimated our police forces? How many times? And we warned them almost what we're doing so that they stop doing what they are doing. The operation is underway. While we are talking right now here, we are knocking on doors. Right now. Because we are compelled to guarantee peace and tranquility in Venezuela for the Venezuelan people. You can check the networks, the media. Things from 4 days ago. They began to recycle messages from 4 or 5 years ago, and they're putting it now as if it was new, to try to give themselves courage, because they're despair. That's where they come from despair, from desperation and craziness. And when people despair, 99% of times they make mistakes, and they are left vulnerable. And that's where our operation thrives. Then they will begin saying that there are activists, human rights, NGO, the untouchable NGOs. How can you do this? How might you think that someone in an NGO conspires because they have never been and they will never be one? For years they have been receiving money from US aid, the money that they have stolen from us, to finance conspiracy in Venezuela. But nothing will stop us, and we will guarantee, the national government, the republic on the streets, we will guarantee that on May 25th our people will go in peace to vote, and at night we will have the results. As always, we are taking all the precautions in all areas. Results will be provided, and Venezuela will have its peace guaranteed. We cannot depend on luck alone. We have to act to make things happen. That's why we're going to continue working.
Bien, un amplio balance el que ofrece el vicepresidente sectorial.